But I wasn't going to tell her no, we're going to have to wait a while. I was going to bring it to you.
Smart man.
Ms. Hammond.
I have a question, Mr. McAllister. We just have the pictures from
Yes,
different places. Will ours be more
Actually,
like
I
this
think,
glass or
actually,
black?
I think you have the ones that actually, the ones with the wood panels and wood doors.
Oh, that's the pretty.
That is actually, that is the design.
Cynthia's California, so I
That
was
is,
like,
that is what I think we're.
that they are prettier than
Yeah.
Ms. Wilson did those out. She's smart.
That's it, yes. That's,
I too support that. You need to get it right while we're in there.
yes, ma'am, I agree.
Any other discussion or questions? We have an item before us. We're taking a motion. Item number 11. What?
I move that we give approval for the Chapin Elementary School media walls as shown in Exhibit F, which is additional in scope.
Ms. Hammond seconds. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please raise your hand. That passes unanimously. That brings us to item number 12. The first thing we need is a motion. This is first reading approval of proposed additions and revisions to board policy I, shown in Exhibit G, and we amended our agenda tonight to add item I. So I would entertain a motion. Ms. Watson.
I move that we give first reading approval of proposed additions and revisions to board policies I, as shown in Exhibit G.
Have a second. Ms. Murphy, second. Any discussion? If not, Ms. Murphy?
Yes, Ms. Watson, I appreciate you moving a policy forward so we will have no lapse in the requirement for the pledge.
Ms. Watson?
I really had no fear that we would have a lapse. I know that our school district follows the law, and it's the law, and there was never any intent, so I didn't think that, I never felt like there was a lapse. What I did feel like was that, that I believe it was you that was quoted in a blog, and you were saying that we were getting rid of that, which really, just when I read what we were looking at, I thought it was quite clear. When you look at the policy, the new one we're including, and comparing it to the older one, and where we are really making it more specific, there were so many other things that were left out of that policy. There were things, because we're dividing them up and separating them and putting them in more efficient places. For instance, in the policy, it talked about some activities, school activities. It talked about, I'm looking for it right now. Let's see. I believe it talked about some special needs. School calendar. I mean, it was a whole lot of stuff. And then I just found it really quite confusing that that one thing would be taken out of context like it was, but then I realized that, you know, it was put on a blog, and there was no query by a board member, by you, Ms. Murphy, to even call the superintendent or call Dr. Fulmer and ask if this was a mistake. Now, and I know you haven't been on the board a full year yet, so perhaps you're learning the ropes, but I would ask that in the future, if you have a concern about something, if there was something you think was misplaced or left out or incorrect, that it's really a better boardsmanship if you just contact the superintendent and ask, or the board chair, and ask directly about it instead of going directly to the media, because what that does, it gives a perception that you're trying to get publicity and incite trouble in the district when there is none. So I think it would be really appropriate if in the future, when you see something that you have a question about, feel free to call Dr. Hefner or the board chairman, and I think that would, you get a lot more accurate information than just going out on your own.
Mr. White.
I had a question, and a comment as well. But we've been doing this painfully for 5 years with rewriting policies. They come to us from the School Board Association. But we're not the only district the School Board Association is doing this for. They're circulating these policies now. We pay that service. So we've hired them to manage the overhaul of our policies. Has this problem ever occurred anywhere else anybody's aware of in the state? That has the media coming in before the board even votes on the canned policy that comes from the School Board Association?
Not that we've heard of, not at all. And I will tell you, there was something said that she wanted this passed before it lapsed. It doesn't lapse
What's
because
state
it's
law?
always in effect until the next policy comes into being. And I would truly appreciate it if I had gotten an email, and I do thank Jim Turner for emailing me on Saturday and personally asking me about this because he was concerned about it. And I will tell you, Ms. Murphy, that I have worked in this school district for 25 years and never has my character been questioned until this happened. And I take great offense to that you went to the media and you know my email address and my telephone number, and you could have called me and I could have straightened this out for you and told you that IMD was coming. But the way we do this, Mr. White, as you know, is we bring 8 to 10 policies at a time, and what we do is we go down as the school board has given us, the School Board Association has given us those. And what we've done is through a committee has gone over all those and tweaked them for the last couple of years, waiting for these policies to come forth, because we went through the G policies and then the J policies, and now we're into the I policies. And so that's the process that we do, and never was there ever any question about the Pledge of Allegiance being in our schools.
Well, the reality is it's state law. We don't have authority to draft a policy that overrides state law. So
Right.
even if we wrote a policy, it still would be in effect.
It is
State
state
law would still
law,
apply.
yes,
So
sir.
we can't take that away.
No,
One.
and it's even listed on every policy. If you look at it, it'll show you what the state regs are, if there's federal regs on it, and then the district policy dates and what those numbers are. So absolutely, it's state law.
And what I would say, Ms. Murphy, you're at the table where these decisions are made. They're not made in the audience. They're not made by these political media. In fact, I think you were interviewed by WLTX on the way out, and they basically concluded this was a non-story. And it is a non-story because you are part of this board, and you're just as responsible for those policies being out there as each one of us. So if there's anything wrong with a policy, you have equal responsibility and equal blame, but there's nothing to blame. It's just like this preposterous thing we had to go through with the check register. It's just fabrication. But when we sit here, we can discuss, we can vote, we can modify, and the only thing it does is breed contempt. And it makes people come to these meetings thinking we've done something wrong, but you're equally at blame if you think this is wrong, but this is your place to address any issue you have. And I just say,
She never gets a chance to.
Even the media let us say this is a non-issue, because it's not an issue.
Ms. Hammond, we'll go to you, and I'm going to let you guys
Mine is another subject. I mean, it's the same thing with voting. I had a question, Mr. Farley, maybe Ms. Anderson, on the,
They avoid
this
recognizing
IMD
her every chance they get.
Are we changing the wording from student-led message instead of benedictions and our invitation to graduation? I know it's the same rules,
Yes,
but are
that's
we,
the recommendation of the School Board Association.
And-
That's the law.
and they just feel like the benediction is because it sounds like a prayer?
And it's because of law. Yes. Covers more than that, too. Exactly, at any event.
And I know it has to be student-led, you know, we're not changing really into that, but it's a matter of the word.
Right.
Has it been a problem with students because of using the word benediction? prayer. I'm thinking it's, I'm trying to figure out why the message is, the wording is changed.
If you look at the back page of the policy, it'll show you the court cases.
Oh, okay.
There are court cases.
I see.
Concerning that.
And it's because of those words, the word. So if you change it to messages, the message can be a prayer, right? Because that would be
There
another
are-
thing we're called, that was another thing I had that question. I gave constituents that called me the same answer that we, as far as the pledge of allegiance, it is the law. So it is certainly not anything we would have taken out. But I did want to be sure about the prayer, because I had that question.
Anytime there is something changed and it has to do with a court case, if you'll look at the end of each policy,
Okay, I see
it will
that.
show you those court cases, the listing of the court cases on there.
Ms. Murphy and then Ms. Watson.
Yes, the policy speaks for itself. If we were to approve the new policy, the agenda says replace current policies, AF school day, AFR school day, and IKD school ceremonies and conferences with new policy, ID school day. You read the policy, the pledge is out of it, it's gone. If we approve it, we have no requirement for the pledge. We have no policy.
Ms.
Excuse me,
Murphy,
I'm
did
talking.
you call anybody or
Excuse me.
ask anybody about it?
Excuse me, I'm speaking.
Ms. Anderson, let's let her finish. I was ready to end this, but I'm not.
It appears that maybe a mistake was made since you do divide the policies, or the policies are divided into batches, and maybe somebody didn't realize that the pledge was actually going to be deleted at this meeting, and then possibly reinstated down the line. But Lexington 1's policy, school day policy, specifically reads the school prayer, the moment of silence and the pledge. So we've omitted the part of the pledge, which I think is extremely important. I don't know if you recall several meetings ago, Mr. Dan, I made the motion that we only approve first reading on the policies that we're approving and reviewing. And that once we're done with that, we approve the whole manual at one time. That way we can avoid this from happening again in the future. Unless it's a certain policy that comes up that we need to address immediately. But when we're changing bulk policies like this, I think it would be better for us to have a first reading, to go through everything, approve it, and then have the second reading when we approve the entire manual. The other thing is, why wouldn't I think the district was going to eliminate the pledge? We just kicked the Boy Scouts out of our schools. That didn't come to the board. Matter of fact, I had a call, and I don't like to use names, but I am. I had a call into Dr. Hefner to find out what happened, why, and I've not had a return phone call. The recruiters for the Boy Scouts have contacted our top administrators, and they never returned a phone call. Their assistants returned a phone call. And they still have not heard back from those top administrators. Minutes of the board meetings have been omitted from agendas that include very important documents that I believe the public should see. I'm an elected official, and I felt my constituents should see that information. Audio tapes, excuse me, Mr. Gann.
Sir, go ahead, because the clock is ticking. 9:30 is, this meeting's going to adjourn. So
We got
take all the
UFOs
time
coming.
you want to take. I've tried my best to extend to you tonight because you're going to complain. Brought people with you tonight to see you grandstand. Everybody get your camera ready. We go after these building projects. So whatever time you want to take, I will tell you this. I spent a lot of my time today and over the weekend because of you. You were recognized at our last board meeting. You came up front. You were awarded level 2 boardsmanship.
What is this
That's
guy
what you
arrogant?
learned. One of the first things that you do is you have a chain of command. If you had an issue or a thought like this, hopefully you pick up the phone and call Dr. Hefner, Dr. Fulmer, Ms. Anderson, somebody. but not a local block.